IDF spokesperson Major Doron Spielman. So, Major, first of all, is there anything additional you can tell us beyond what I just read, this information from the Red Cross about hostages now confirmed to have been handed over to them today?
Jared, thank you for having me. You know, the way that we have been dealing with this is uncertainty has followed us through this entire process, as you're reporting, as these families have experienced. Until these people are home in Israel, we don't want to count our chickens until they've hatched. And we're certainly hoping the more people that come home, these families are waiting in hospital wards right now, hoping on pins and needles that these family members are going to come back. We should know in the next few minutes if this is in fact verified and true.
Is it, are the numbers that I read, 10 Israelis, 4 Thais, 1 American, consistent with your expectations for what hostages might have been released today?
Certainly the 10 Israelis, including, again, according to what I've heard in media reports, one of them being an American, is along with what we've expected. This is, again, this has been the condition that we put forward with regards to extending this truce. So every day we said that we would extend this as long as 10 hostages were leaving Gaza that could come home. We've had a lot of disappointments. We've also had mixed feelings and joy. But like you've reported this entire time, and I've been watching this segment, all these families that have been coming out have such a long road ahead of them, including those that come out tonight. These people don't know that October 7th happened. They don't know the scale. They don't know what they're walking into. They don't know if their family members are alive or dead. They don't understand the whole world is watching them. And so each of these phases, including tonight, is shattering for these families. And that's what we're replaying again and again every night.
Obviously, there is no trust here between the IDF, the Israeli government, and Hamas that exists on this issue, except what is able to be built up each time one of these exchanges takes place successfully. Does the fact that you have been able to get these hostages out successfully today, we assume, but certainly in the last couple days, speak to a desire, an ability to extend this truce significantly further, to get more folks out than perhaps you might have even thought possible a few days ago?
That is certainly our hope. Our hope is to get as many hostages out. We've placed a 10-day deadline on this format. After a 10-day type of continuation of this, which would leave about another 3 days ahead, it would have to go back to the War Committee. They would have to vote to extend this. So obviously our hope is to bring as many people home as possible. At the same time, I can tell you from within the military, we are totally ready to continue with this operation. If this does not continue, we'll be back on the ground. We've practiced. We're highly, highly ready right now to continue with our goals. And we know what I think the world understands. Hamas would never be releasing these hostages unless they felt they had to, and that is a result of the military campaign. Hamas, as the president said, President Biden, they couldn't give a damn about these people. It's only because their backs are to the wall, and if they won't release them, we're going to push them farther and farther to the wall.
What does that readiness look like? You guys have been basically parked in Gaza for the better part of a week now. If this war were to resume again tomorrow, do you have new intelligence capabilities based on these hostages that have been released? Are you concerned about the relative opportunity that Hamas has had to regroup during that time? I mean, talk to me about what that would look like if this truce were to fall apart.
We've refreshed our soldiers on the ground. They have operational plans. We've increased our intelligence. We know our targets. We've had time actually to focus and really prepare for this next stage. Don't forget the last stage. We were taken completely by surprise when those families were slaughtered. By the time we got up to the front line, soon later, we were in a battle rhythm to go into Gaza. This time has been very helpful to us operationally. I will say, of course, we're concerned about Hamas. I mean, Hamas, by asking us not to fly our drones over Gaza, wasn't so they could, hand out baskets of candy and food. They've been underground preparing their terror infrastructure, probably embedding themselves in those civilian areas that they're hoping we're not going to move into in southern Gaza, because they'll just continue their same practices, barricading underground, reinforcing civilians overhead, and trying to attack us. That's the price that we have to face of bringing home our people, which is a top priority.
You mentioned going into southern Gaza. There's been a lot of discussion. I know the Americans are very concerned about that. Any operation into southern Gaza take even more care to protect the lives of civilians. What have you done differently over these last couple of days? What steps have you put in place to make sure that the IDF does go south? You can do a more effective job of protecting civilians, whether it's not doing mass bombardments or other tactical or strategic changes to make that phase of the war look different from a civilian perspective than did the first phase.
I can tell you, Garrett, that we share the same values as America does. We're not looking for any civilians to die in this war. We never wanted this war to begin. We do everything we can, and we've tried to be, under extremely difficult circumstances, tried to be as precise as possible. Again, I don't know how many armies have ever faced someone like Hamas that is so willing to put civilians in front of every single fighter. Imagine thousands of lone shooters, every single one of them holding a civilian in front of them, shooting back at you. That's what we're facing. And I know that the numbers are high. We all feel that this is devastating, the civilian deaths in Israel and civilian deaths in Gaza. This is a result of Hamas embedding themselves, and we'll continue to try to take these into account. I will say, though, if I was Hamas right now and I heard these announcements about, not moving people from their homes in southern Gaza, I know what I'd be thinking. I'd be thinking that's where I'm going to put my terror infrastructure, under those civilians. And I think we have to be very, very careful about that, because at the end of the day, it enables Hamas to embed, and it puts those civilians even in greater risk.
I also want to ask you about what's been going on in the West Bank. The IDF says it conducted operations in Jenin that killed 2 senior militants. But there's a video going around on social media. I'm sure you've seen it. NBC News has geolocated it to Jenin. We're not showing it because it's too graphic for this program, but it shows 4 boys running for cover, one of them falling to the ground, another one drags him behind a car. They leave a trail of blood behind. The Palestinian Health Ministry says that 2 children, an 8-year-old and a 15-year-old boy, were killed. Have you seen that video, and what is the IDF's assessment of what happened there?
So I can tell you I have seen the video. It is circulating around. What we know is that we found 2 major Islamic Jihad terrorists. They operated very similar to Hamas in Jenin. They were, in fact, eliminated, and there were a number of threats that were identified by our forces. There was an exchange of fire. I can still not verify. We don't have the information of what we see in that video. And like all the videos that come out, that video is parsed according to a very specific interlude. It doesn't show the background. It doesn't show if these were people who hurled devices. Again, to me, it doesn't look like a young person in that video, but I don't know. We have to wait. We have to wait till we do our investigation and this comes out. However, I will say the tactics of Islamic Jihad are the same tactics of Hamas. Again, it is operating in areas with civilians. It's the same challenges that we face, and they pose the same threat to Israel like Hamas. If they are not stopped on our border, Islamic Jihad and Hamas have their sights in other places around the world, including the United States. The war that we're fighting against these people is a war that will extend beyond our borders if it's not stopped here.
How do you convince people who are going to see that video online of someone who does look to me like a kid getting shot, apparently by IDF forces, that you are taking the care that American officials, United Nations officials, the rest of the world is really demanding from Israel going forward? How do you square those things?
First of all, I'm not here to convince anybody that the death of a civilian is not tragic, because it is. And all of the civilians that have died throughout this conflict is enormously tragic. What I would say is we have to ask a simple question. Why do we see civilians in every single instance where terrorists are confronting IDF troops? Why? Where do we put the blame here? Are we going to put the blame on Israel for trying to kill a terrorist that threatens our life? For instance, we bring this back to Gaza. If we don't go after Hamas in Gaza, which is hiding behind civilians, what am I supposed to say at night when I put my 7-year-old to sleep and he asks me, Daddy, are the murderers still out there? Am I going to say, no, we left them there because they're hiding behind civilians and we can't go after them? That's not possible. We have to be able to eliminate terrorists, and their use of civilians is a ploy to divert the world's attention to Israel. The international community has got to stand up and be extremely consistent in demanding that Hamas remove their activities from civilians. We cannot fall for this ploy because it only encourages the terrorists to do this again and again and again.
All right, Major Spielman, we got to leave it there. As always, I appreciate your time.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.